Hey Jackson, there is some big news and exciting updates coming out of the Jackson Airport, and I am pumped to share them with you. And just to be clear, when I talk about the airport in this video, I'm referring to the Jackson Everest Airport. Jackson has two airports, and one of them is Hawkins Field. I'm not talking about that in this particular video. I'm talking about the airport that is Jackson Everest, and that's the one located in Rankin County. In order to understand these developments, it's important to know first that there is a difference between a city owning a piece of land and a city having incorporated a piece of land. So, a city might have land that it both owns and has incorporated. It might have some land that it owns but does not have incorporated. It's possible to have incorporated some land that it does not own. And of course, it's possible for a piece of land to be neither owned nor incorporated by a particular city. So now let's talk about the airport. Back in the 1960s, the city of Jackson wanted an airport. And so they put one here. And it's not really part of Jackson proper in what we normally think of Jackson. And so you have the majority of Jackson over here, and you have the airport over here. You've got Flowood to the north of the airport. You have the city of Pearl to the south of the airport. And really, the airport is physically located in Rankin County. Now, we have acquired this land by purchasing it. That's how we initially got this land back in the 1960s. And so, as a result, we, as the City of Jackson and the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority, own the land. We own the land that the airport now sits on and a bit of the land in the perimeter of the airport. We, as the City of Jackson, have also incorporated some of this land, including the land that the airport now sits on. But importantly and crucially, we never incorporated all of the area that we own surrounding the airport. If I could turn back time, if there's something that I wish could have been done a little bit differently, it's that way back in the 1960s, when we first came to own this land, I wish we would have incorporated it in its entirety. Flowood, as we know it today, basically did not exist back then. Pearl was entirely different. It likely wouldn't have been a big challenge at all and for us to incorporate it way back when we first acquired it. And so much would have been different from that point. But unfortunately, we can't reverse time. It's just not how it happened. So we own all of that area, but there is a large portion of it surrounding the airport that we own, but it is not incorporated. Now, what does it mean that we own that? What does it mean to own the land? Well, when you own land, you could do what you want with it. We could sell the land to someone else if we wanted to, but that wouldn't be a very smart idea. So more realistically, we would lease that land out. So if you wanted to build a hotel or you wanted to build a McDonald's, we could set whatever price we think is fair. And if you give us that money, we will allow you to build a hotel or build a McDonald's or whatever you wanted to build on that land. So owning that land is a revenue driver for us in part because you can lease the land from us. To be clear, per FAA regulations, the money we receive from leasing that property must be directed to the airport, which can then be used for improvements or expansions. So while the funds are not directed to our general fund, we still receive benefits. But what does it mean that we don't have it incorporated? Well, if the land was both owned by us and incorporated, the incorporated part means that we have some responsibilities and we get some perks. First, let's talk about those responsibilities. If there were lands that were incorporated, we may be required to provide water, policing, and other services. Many of the services that we provide in the main part of Jackson, we may be required to provide there. That's responsibility of the city if that land were to be incorporated. So if those are the responsibilities, what are the perks? The perks are taxes. So if it were to be incorporated, so not only owned by us, but also incorporated, then we would also get sales and property tax from things that occur on there. But remember, that's not how it currently is. How it currently is we own the land, but it is not incorporated. So right now, if you were to build a McDonald's there, we would still get that first group of money. We would still lease you the land, so you would still pay to be able to use that land. And remember, that money goes directly to the airport. But once it was built and you started selling cheeseburgers, we would not get any money from the cheeseburgers. We wouldn't have the responsibility of providing you water or policing, but we also wouldn't get the perks either. By the way, over the past few years, especially the past 10, 20, 30 years, as development has started to increase, the city of Jackson has gone to Rankin County and said, we would please like to incorporate this land now. But at that point, Rankin County has said, no, we are not going to allow you to incorporate this land. You cannot incorporate it. In 2018, the city of Flowood filed a lawsuit. And they said that they should be able to incorporate the portion of the airport that is in Flowood. They should be able to incorporate that as incorporated Flowood. Less than 2 months later, the city of Pearl also filed suit. They said that the portion of the airport that is in Pearl should be allowed to incorporate those lands. If those lawsuits would have been successful, and if somebody came to us and said, we want to build a McDonald's right here, the authority could still get the money by leasing the land. And again, that money would go to the airport. But then every cheeseburger that was sold there, the sales tax would go to Flowood or it would go to Pearl, and no part would be incorporated by Jackson. And Jackson would not have any ability to get sales or property tax. These lawsuits were in Rankin County, so they would have been heard in Rankin County by a judge from Rankin County. If you're a betting person, you might believe that no matter how strong of a defense the city of Jackson put up, a Rankin County judge would side with Flowood and with Rankin, allowing them to incorporate that entire land, and we would have nothing to have incorporated. So, folks from Jackson and Flowood and Pearl all got together and they said, let's see if we can make a deal. And to their enormous credit, folks I know who were in the room report that Flowood and Pearl really operated in good faith and really came to the table prepared to be collaborative and to form partnerships and see if there was a mutually beneficial solution. And what we came up with is this. Jackson will allow a portion of the land that Flowood requested to be incorporated. We would allow them to incorporate that land while we still retain ownership. And we would allow a portion of the land that Pearl requested to be incorporated. We would allow them to incorporate that land while we still retained ownership. And in exchange, Pearl and Flowood and Jackson would go together to Rankin County and tell Rankin County, we want Jackson to have a piece of this puzzle too. And Flowood and Pearl, we are here telling Rankin County that we support this deal too, and we want this to happen. So Flowood agreed to that settlement and they followed through on their steps and they went to Rankin County, and Pearl agreed to the settlement and followed through on their steps to go to the county. And I am thrilled to report that Rankin County agreed to the deal as well. The final big piece of this puzzle was that Jackson needed to formally enter into the settlement agreement on our end as well. And tonight at City Council, we voted to do just that. There are some minor hoops that need to be jumped through and some I's to dot and T's to cross, but for the most part, this framework is finalized. To be clear, before the settlement, Jackson owned all the land surrounding the airport, but almost none of it was incorporated. After the settlement, Jackson will continue to own all of the land surrounding the airport. A portion will be incorporated as Flowood, a portion will be incorporated as Pearl, and most excitingly, a portion will be incorporated as Jackson. So imagine somebody builds 3 McDonald's. They put one here, and one here. First, let's talk about who owns the land that these McDonald's sit upon. Let's talk about this one first. In the old system, this land was owned by the city of Jackson / the Jackson Airport. This one, the land that was on it was owned by the city of Jackson / the Jackson Airport. And this one, the land was owned by the city of Jackson / the Jackson Airport. And after the settlement, nothing about that will change. So who will get money from leasing this land to the McDonald's? In the old system, it was the Jackson Airport. In the new system, it's the Jackson Airport. So Jackson, baby, all the way. Pearl and Flowood would not get money from that lease payment even if they incorporate that land. So that part is no change whatsoever. Now let's talk about who will get sales and property tax. We'll start with this one. If this one is now in land that is incorporated by Flowood, then Flowood would get the sales or property tax associated with that McDonald's. And a similar thing will happen with this one if this one is now in the area that is now incorporated as Pearl. Importantly, Jackson was not receiving sales or property tax before, and it's still the case that we will not get sales or property tax now. But here is an important piece. This one, if there are sales or property tax from this one, which is now in the part that is incorporated as Jackson, we will receive the applicable sales and property tax. Before we will not. Now we are. So in no case did we lose area that was incorporated as Jackson and now is no longer. The only thing that is the case is there was portions that were not incorporated as Jackson that now are incorporated as Jackson. This is the best possible deal we could have gotten from this arrangement. The only thing that could have potentially been better is if we were able to retain ownership of the entire land and we could somehow incorporate the entire land as Jackson. So some critics will say, well, allowing Flowood or Pearl to incorporate any land at all is not a good deal. They'll say the only good deal is if we incorporate the entire land as Jackson. But I'll give two counterarguments to that. One is it's just not realistic. We have to be fair. We have to be reasonable. We tried for decades to incorporate this land on our own, and we weren't getting any of it. And so in order to get a portion of it, it's only fair that we partner with Flowood and Pearl and allow them to have some portions of that land that is incorporated as well. And the second thing that I'll say, beyond the fact that it's just not realistic, is even if that could be possible, even if somehow in some alternative universe, Reagan County would be willing to just allow us to incorporate all that land, I'm not entirely sure that would have been an ultimate victory either, because it would have been much, much more difficult for the airport to get water systems and other systems to support that entire area. And so in my mind, it's not really a huge loss to allow Flowood and to Pearl to be part of this puzzle. We still retain ownership over it. We still get money from that development from the lease of the sales. And we will get the sales benefit from a portion of that land. To me, this is just a wonderful deal. And besides all that, this is a new spirit of collaboration we're seeing with Flowood and with Pearl. And frankly, I'm excited about this partnership. And I think it makes it a mutually beneficial system where all three of us are really going to be invested in making sure that the area succeeds because we all have a piece of the pie. Anybody tells you that we are giving away the airport, they are spreading disinformation. We continue to own 100% of the land around the airport. This is a fantastic deal for us. You are going to see so much development happening around the airport following this deal, and Jackson is going to get a major piece of the pie. We deserve it, and I'm so excited to work with our partners in Pearl and Flowood to make it happen.